One of the things that we really try and mimic or emulate is the natural system. So when we take a look at this food forest, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to mimic the principles expressed in natural systems. Okay, and part of that is taking a holistic approach, right? Both a W and an H, right? So we take the system and look at it as a whole with a W, and then we also have a holistic approach with an H, again, kind of natural. So we don't use any, there's no synthetic fertilizers. Honestly, we don't even use, purchased uh, organic fertilizers. Whatever we make on site is what we use on our property. Okay, so that could be, obviously compost teas, manure teas, that. Mulching, we will do some mulching. But as you can see, I mean, maximizing ground cover is important to us. But I think there's a tendency for people, if for example, if you have an orchard, is to look at each individual tree, right? It's like, is this apple tree producing? Is it not producing? If this apple tree is not producing, I'm going to cut the apple tree out and replace it. Now, I understand that especially from a commercial orchardist perspective, right? That's what they're trying to do. So they're almost forcing themselves to look at it in that manner. And I'm not saying that they don't look at the whole of their orchard either, but I think there's less of a tendency to do that. But that's what we're looking at. So again, we're not looking at, in fact, no, not at all, looking at the production alone of any individual plant. We are looking at production for sure. We want to get a yield. Okay, we want to get a short-term, long-term yield, and that part of that is establishing a food forest. Part of that is collaborating with succession, planting annuals in and amongst the food forest while it's still young and not fully grown or mature. And as it matures, less and less of that and more of tree crops, berries, etc. All right, so we're looking at the production of the whole. We're getting fruit, nuts, herbs, all of this for food, medicine. We're raising animals in here, so we're getting meat, mushrooms, all these different things. We're producing more and more self-supporting systems. Okay, so we have comfrey throughout here, and that's our go-to mulch maker, along with making fertilizer, tea, etc. All right, so I'm going to kind of continue this tour just a little bit, just to give you a sampling of some of the other things that we have planted here. We've covered a lot so far, and I'll show you a few more. One of the things that I mentioned before is that we like to basically incorporate native plants. A lot of natives growing in here, a lot of willow species, all this lupin that we see, ocean spray, many different native plants, to include kinnikinick and just the native tree species around here. There's a little, I'll show you real quick, a little larch right there. So we're going to let that grow. And I already showed you these hazelnuts, and we have many different kinds of hazelnut. Here's our little pawpaw tree experiment. It's not doing so great, but we're going to see if it will make it. We got, again, all these native tall grasses. These grasses right here will get 6-7 feet tall. Again, more filberts and hazelnuts, more elderberry, a lot of that. We've got, let's see, we've got right there. There's a Jefferson filbert. Again, lots of clovers throughout, and you'll see again a lot of weeds in here. And what that's telling us is that some apricot grown from seed. And again, this was one of the things we talked about, is incorporating annuals. So we've got our little trellis here. Eventually, I'd like to probably grow fruit trees up this trellis, but right now we just threw in some different kinds of squash and things, just see how they would do. Again, very low maintenance. Throw a little bit of water at them, A little bit of mulch around them, but you know, that's about it. Okay, another apricot. And again, like I talked about before, all kinds of natives in here. Lots of ocean spray, Oregon grape, wild strawberry. We've even got some, actually back here, we've got some sugar maple growing up there. A few sugar maple along that back fence. Okay, and that's the west side. Okay, we even got, this is just, I mean, incredible. We got the native huckleberry going. We got a nice patch right here inside of our food forest. That is not planted. That is just there. And then we have this kind of big patch of Oregon grape and kinnikinnick. Berries are forming, and with our huckleberries, lots of berries forming right now as well. Another plant that we have throughout is pea shrub. Okay, lots of pea shrub, and okay, more annuals growing on this trellis. Another pea shrub. We've got, again, more elderberry. It's obvious we like elderberry. Jerusalem artichoke, sunchokes, cherry, wild plum, and let's see, more elderberry, more locust. We got roses, and then staghorn sumac. So that kind of gives you just a brief overview of a lot of things we have planted. And you know, we didn't talk about everything for sure. Talked about half of everything. And there's a lot of other species that we use in here that are real important to us, but you know, I just don't have time to talk about all of them. So hope you enjoyed it. Here's one last look at least a portion of our food forest.